If we think all the way back to 2016, for example, if you were into makeup back then, you remember it clearly. That whole time period, right? It was an era of, let's be real, beauty YouTube. A time when the Urban Decay Naked palette, for example, was like practically a rite of passage. MAC lipsticks were like the holy grail, and every tutorial started with like the same 3 steps: primer, foundation, and contour. Because if you weren't sculpting your face like Kim Kardashian's makeup artist, were you even trying to contour your face? You know what I mean? And there was a formula to all this. Brands like NARS, Too Faced, Anastasia Beverly Hills, and of course MAC and Urban Decay were everywhere. And you couldn't walk into a Sephora, for example, without seeing their bestsellers front and center. Makeup collections were enormous, right? Full of limited edition releases and influencer collaborations. It was exciting at the time. It was luxurious. It was aspirational. Now think about what it's like walking into a Sephora today. The displays are like dominated by newer brands, perhaps some brands you actually haven't even heard of before. Shelves are lined with items that went viral on TikTok, with signs like TikTok viral. Not necessarily just in Sephora, but other places. Products that didn't even exist like 5 years ago. Rare Beauty's Soft Pinch Blush sold out. Again, locked up like they're diamonds. And those once iconic brands, the ones that used to own the spotlight, they're quietly tucked away in the back or not even there anymore. Their launches barely even discussed. So what exactly changed? This is what I want to talk about today. Did TikTok kill? I'm always bitching out TikTok, but did TikTok and the way the beauty community and industry has formed and molded around TikTok, did it kill traditional beauty brands? Was it the algorithm that assassinated those old brands? Or maybe did these legacy brands simply fail to evolve in time? So to understand what's really happening, let's break this down from a few different angles. We're going to look at the numbers, the psychology behind TikTok's influence, and most importantly, the consequences of this shift. So let's start with the numbers, because numbers paint like a brutally honest picture. And here's the truth: some of the biggest legacy brands in beauty are in decline. And we're talking sharp decline, right? Let's talk MAC, for example. Although they seem to be having a bit of a resurgence recently, and I'm really hoping they get back up there with their new releases, their nude lipsticks, the whole, the strobe blushes. They did just recently change their MAC Studio Fix powder formula, which doesn't seem to be going down so well. I need to try that actually. They were once considered the pinnacle of what was cool and new in makeup. They have seen a serious drop off in recent years. Since 2020, their parent company, Estee Lauder, reported a 22% decrease in MAC's sales. Listen, I worked for MAC just before the pandemic, before I started YouTube full time, and it was like constantly trying to catch up with yourself. I always said it was like working on a sinking ship. That's not just a seasonal slump or a bad quarter though. That's a sustained downward trend. And it's not an isolated case either. NARS, the brand that practically defined millennial beauty culture with its now iconic Orgasm blush. Listen, you had Orgasm blush. NARS was always one of those brands, again, you really aspire to own or use, but it's no longer anywhere near the top 20 bestsellers at Sephora, which I find really surprising. Too Faced, the brand that bought us the Better Than Sex mascara, once a cult favorite, hasn't had a product catch fire in years. Because they're all fucking boring, that's why. Ask around, right? Can anyone even name a major Too Faced launch since 2019? It's quiet. And while these legacy names are fading from the spotlight, newer or like once overlooked brands are absolutely thriving in their place. Take e.l.f. for example, right? e.l.f. Cosmetics, love them. Love them. Once considered like a budget-only option for teens, e.l.f. has completely flipped that script. In the past year alone, e.l.f. reported a 78% surge in sales, which is insane. That kind of growth is unheard of in the current beauty climate. Unless you're Rare Beauty, right? So what happened, right? It's very simple. While these older brands, these older companies were busy repackaging the same hero products from 10 years ago, not really coming up with anything new, brands like e.l.f. were showing up on TikTok. They were producing high-performing dupes for a fraction of the price with content that people couldn't stop watching. $8 primers, $6 lip oils, products that didn't just perform well, they performed on camera. Advertisements from e.l.f. were a little bit crazy, but attention grabbing, and people loved watching them and talked about them. And it's not just affordable brands, right? Luxury players like Dior are thriving too, but not for the reasons you might expect. For example, like that $40 lip oil? It became viral on TikTok, over 1 million units sold in 6 months. And the kicker is, it wasn't pushed by celebrities or magazines, it was TikTok creators, some with just a few thousand followers, who were just sharing their honest, authentic reactions, you know, their opinions on it. They weren't being paid for it. And it sparked the craze for people to go out and buy this, in my opinion, overpriced lip oil. Meanwhile, take a look at Morphe, for example. They were once the blueprint for influencer-driven beauty. Their rise was incredible, like crazy, but it was fueled by massive YouTube collaborations and creator loyalty. But times have changed, right? Searches for Morphe has dropped by 75% since 2018. That's not just a fade out, that's a complete collapse. And it's a collapse on social media in general. When you type Morphe into any search engine, more than likely you're going to get results that are videos about their drama, their fails, how terrible they've been. And here's why. Morphe bet big on YouTube generation, but YouTube no longer sets the tone for beauty trends. Sorry everyone, sorry guys, TikTok does. And if you're not part of this social media kind of like ecosystem, I guess you could say, your brand quickly becomes a relic. And that was Mac's mistake when YouTube first became a thing. I have a whole video on it, you can watch it here. I'll link it below as well. So how exactly are TikTok first brands dominating, right? It all kind of comes down to three key strategies. And these are strategies that traditional brands have struggled or refuse to adopt. And listen, I'm not saying that all these strategies are right or correct or good for the environment, but they evidently work. Again, not saying you should do them, it's just how brands are doing it. The first is speed. For example, TikTok trends move fast, weekly at this point, and I mean weekly, right? A look, a product, a phrase, anything can go viral overnight, and consumers want to participate in the trend now, not 6 months from now. We'll call them traditional brands, move slowly, like cruise ships. You know, a new product can take 12 to 18 months from concept to launch. And that means by the time it hits shelves, the trend that a product was inspired by is already old news. You know what? A month after, fine, sure, people may be talking about it. But TikTok native brands move so fast, so quickly. When the strawberry makeup trend blew up, when everyone was talking about it, SheGlam, as much as I hate it, because it's owned by fast fashion giant Shein, whatever you want to call it, they launched a full makeup collection to match the aesthetic, and it hit their site within 3 weeks, not months. Again, is that good? No, not really, because that means it's fast makeup, but it's how the brand is thriving. That kind of movement, that fastness is so important, and it's what makes these brands feel fresh and relevant in real time. Again, I'm not saying that's a positive thing, but it's just how people think, right? The second strategy is more of the visual appeal, right? Gen Z shoppers don't just buy a product. Millennial shoppers don't just buy a product. They buy the vibe, right? The packaging, the way it looks on the vanity. And that's not to say everyone thinks the same, but majority. The way it photographs in a whole video for us millennials who are still watching YouTube. Again, sorry to pick on MAC, but their classic like matte black bullets, I love them now. I think they look great in a kit. I think they're classy. I love black though. And they might have looked like really, really chic in 2012, and I hope they never change it, but they do feel dated. In contrast, you have brands like Rare Beauty. I just did a review of their blush and the lip oils came with it. You know, compared to a black bullet. But even brands like Rare Beauty, Merit for example, they offer minimalist and modern and like aesthetically pleasing, but it's packaging that feels right at home in, you know, your pictures you're going to put on Instagram, or in your product layouts, or in your bathroom, your shelfie, or your get ready with me, you know what I mean? Even if a formula isn't dramatically different, if a packaging captures the aesthetic moment, it sells. It's a lot about social media. Now I know myself and a lot of other people, we don't buy our products just based on what we see on social media, but it's a huge selling point today in the beauty industry. The third major thing, right? Influencer hierarchy, right, has been flipped upside down. And this is something you see it trending a lot in influencer marketing. The legacy brands built their entire marketing models around a few mega influencers. A Jaclyn Hill, a James Charles, could sell out a collection overnight, right? But that model doesn't work on TikTok. It doesn't work for everyone. TikTok is that platform where it's a bit more raw, it's a bit more authentic. People want to see you standing in your bathroom talking about shit, even if it's tidy or not. And it's not about the creator with 10 million followers, 14 million followers. It's about 10,000. 5,000 micro and nano influencers, they're called, which I think is terrible. They have smaller audiences, right? Yes, but they're trusted. They feel realer. Their content doesn't feel like an ad. It feels like a recommendation from a friend. And here's something that people need to bear in mind. It's not about following on social media, right? Yes, you can have loads and loads of followers, great. But there are people, take my channel for example, I have over 1 million followers. My videos get the same amount of views as somebody with 100,000, 200,000, all this kind of stuff. The social media space has completely changed. It's no longer like 10% of the audience must be watching this. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's how many people are watching your content for how long. It doesn't matter about followers. So if you have a page that has 5,000 followers and 5,000 people are watching it, that's 5,000 people. That's a great number. So this switch to a more smaller, I'm doing air quotes, people aren't watching, content creator is a great move. And when hundreds of them talk about the same lip gloss, primer or blush at the same time, it creates a wave. It doesn't matter how many followers they have initially, and that's the main difference, right? But while this like new world of social media has unlocked a lot of opportunity and excitement, it's not without its downsides. There's a darker side to TikTok beauty culture, as there is with every kind of beauty culture. Let's start with like the illusion of quality, right? Many viral products are beautiful on camera. They swatch well. They look incredible when on skin, they catch the light, they shimmer just perfectly under the right lighting in a 15-second clip. But when it comes to long-term wear, ingredients and skin compatibility, how it sits in your skin, not all that shit is great. It's not all good. Go back to those Dior lip oils, right? Again, wildly popular. But is it really delivering a $40 experience, or are we just paying for pretty packaging, the TikTok hype, the way it looks on the lip? Because a lip oil at the end of the day is a fucking lip oil. Then there's dupe culture. We talk about dupes a lot on this channel. Don't get me wrong. You know I love a good dupe. Who doesn't, right? Who doesn't want to save money as well, especially now? But there's a fine line between inspiration and imitation, straight up copying. When an $8 primer beats a $50 one in virality, it creates a new incentive structure, right? Brands are no longer pushed to innovate. And this is my problem with brands a lot. They're racing to copy and undercut other brands. And it's fine. Again, it's fine to dupe. But come up with your own fucking products occasionally. And what happens, right, when everyone is copying the same thing, we stop moving forward in terms of creativity, in terms of innovation, because everyone is trying to make, say for example, I'm a huge brand, I release hand sanitizer. That's something different, that's new. And all the drugstore brands want to copy that. And all the other mid-tier brands, even luxury brands, also want to make their own. What's happening that's new? Or what is going on? Bring it back to Rare Beauty. I love Rare Beauty because the things they release just seem like they're doing it in their own time. Off the bat, they're not trying to keep up with everyone else. Even MAC are doing that. They're just doing what it is they do. So that's a great thing about those brands. But a lot of the time, people do want to try another brand's version of something else. It kind of leads to burnout, like burnout of everything, burnout of beauty, burnout of influencers. TikTok beauty moves so quick, right? Trends rise and fall in weeks. We went from clean girl to grunge fairy to mob wife in what felt like a month. I think it was a month. And brands scramble to keep up, whether that's with their social media and actual product, to stay relevant. Imagine trying to have to stay relevant every week. That pressure, it trickles down to consumers too. We're constantly being sold the next must-have item, the next thing we need to include in our social media for us and our wallets and our sanity, are feeling it, right? There's also the question of performance of some of these products. In general, I know we said that. Some of the products are amazing, some of them not so much, right? That $5 lipstick might look great on camera, but if the reviews say it dries out your lips or irritates your skin, is it really winning? Like the packaging may look great, it may be a bargain, especially on TikTok, you may be able to get a pack of 7 lip whatevers for whatever, but please be careful. We are buying so fast or being shown something so fast and so often, and we buy impulsively. We're going back to that point. There was a point where we were like, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're not what's it called? Impulse buying. I literally just said it. And now we're coming back to it, and sometimes we're sacrificing the quality of what we use for clout, right? So what does this mean for those traditional beauty brands? The MACs, the NARS's, the Urban Decays. Are they all doomed? No, not necessarily, right? Some are not just surviving, they're adapting and doing it well. Charlotte Tilbury, for example, although I don't like the products, is a perfect example of this. The brand didn't just launch a hit product, they made pillow talk into a TikTok sound, right? That's how deeply they understood the culture. So if people don't use TikTok, a TikTok sound is like, you know, when you just see people miming all the time. I hate that. I don't know why they do that. One of the viral sounds will be what they're miming to, and that adds virality to that. But they understood. It's a great brand if you want to see how well they understood social media. NYX, do you guys say NYX or NYX? I say NYX. Has embraced TikTok completely, right? They churn out affordable dupes. Also, like playful campaigns that resonates with the target audience on TikTok, a younger audience on TikTok. Although their products are good for any age, I do have to say. These brands didn't try to fight the new system. They weren't trying to be like, no, we're too good for that. They leaned in and they evolved. But others have struggled, right? Morphe is still relying on influencer collabs for some reason, even though it ruined them. KBeauty, vegan beauty, I know, it's still around, cut ties with its controversial founder, which is what people wanted, but then they didn't give consumers a reason to stick around with their brand, right? Bite Beauty went all in on like clean, you know, right as that trend was tapering off. Although people still say it's not as huge as it was at one point. These failures weren't caused by TikTok though. They weren't caused by TikTok being a thing. It was people not adapting. TikTok almost revealed that these brands didn't want to go with the times. TikTok didn't kill any traditional beauty. It exposed which brands were too slow, too stubborn, or too out of touch to adapt. And this is exactly what happened with YouTube. The brands that didn't lean into, you know, sending YouTubers products or doing a collaboration with a YouTuber and came on too late failed at that time, because that's where the space was. It's not so much now, but that's where the space was. Again, MAC, I'm sorry, started doing influencer collaborations too late, and now nobody wants to see collaborations from influencers for a big brand like that, right? So the future of beauty belongs to those brands that can combine legacy with relevance, right? That can innovate while staying authentic, that understand TikTok isn't a threat. And it goes for social media in general. Brands that can adapt to social media and how it affects the beauty industry and the culture of beauty will do well. And if they can't, they'll end up in one of those TikToks we've all seen where it's like brands that used to be popular and aren't anymore. And as much as people aren't all consuming with social media, although it's my job, I don't necessarily rely on social media to recommend what products I'm gonna buy. Actually, we can't argue that it's a huge player within the beauty space. So that was a bit of a rant on my behalf, but tell me where you stand. Do you think legacy brands can make a comeback? Do you think Clinique needs to get on TikTok? Or is the TikTok age of beauty gonna be how it is for a really, really long time? Let me know in the comments. I'll be having a video soon about a brand that didn't do so well and some looking back into it, so watch this space. Thank you all for watching. Do please consider subscribing. Give this video a thumbs up if you like things like this. Please go ahead and check out my beauty blog. I take a deeper look into the beauty industry. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Bye.